How to complete the online financial report template. This video will look at how to complete the financial report template to be completed and submitted with final reporting via online system no later than February 2nd, 2022 at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The financial report is where, in the past, most awardees have had the most challenges. To address this, WHC has developed an automated template to calculate rebatables, taxes, and populate the financial report for you. The financial report template has been updated to streamline the collection and correct reporting of the project expenses. You are expected to reference the relevant program guidelines and available online program resources, along with the information in this video prior to completing the financial reporting template and package. Some important points to remember are: LTCF expenses must have been incurred between April 1st, 2021 and March 31st, 2022. Eligible match includes project expenses incurred between April 1st, 2019 and March 31st, 2022. LTCF funds cannot be used for rebatable taxes. Expenses of $1,000 or more required a numbered receipt. Each worksheet has separate tables for match funds, cash match, or in-kind. The financial report must be submitted using the new automated template. Step 1, which is the Read Me instruction sheet. Click on the cell identifying the province. Click on the arrow to the bottom of the right of the cell to select the province from the drop-down list. This will automatically set all sheets of the selected province so that the percentage of rebatable taxes is appropriately calculated. The next sheet is the financial report sheet. Leave this sheet until the very end. The table on this sheet will autofill based on the information input into the separate eligible expense worksheets. There are a total of 17 worksheets in this template. You must scroll all the way to the right to find all available worksheets. At the top of each eligible expense worksheet, there is helpful information about what expenses are suitable to be included. You will need to itemize all expenses for LTCF expenses and match tables. Each eligible expense worksheet has locked formula that will calculate the correct amount of each expense allowed to be charged to the LTCF program. If the expense amount on receipt invoice is $1,000 or more, the receipt number label will turn yellow, indicating that copy of the receipt must be submitted and numbered. If yes is selected under "Is the majority of this expense being charged to the LTCF?" then column L through M will trigger an auto-populate to allow portions of the invoice. You will not be permitted to enter a dollar amount in column N. How much of the eligible amount of the invoice are you charging to LTCF? That exceeds the amount into calculated under column N. Maximum eligible amount of the invoice that can be charged to LTCF. If an incorrect amount is entered in the column N, you will see the red error message appear, indicating that adjustment is required. There can be no error message in the financial report upon submission, or it will be returned for correction and resubmission. Scroll down on each worksheet to complete the cash match and in-kind match tables. Again, if the dollar amount claimed as match is higher than the expense amount, a red error message will appear indicating the adjustment is required. Here is the expense sheet for travel completed as needed. Salaries and wages. These expenses include staff time necessary for planning, negotiating, coordinating, managing, and completing the project. Existing benefits for employees and contract staff and mandatory employment-related expenditure. Please note, employees and employment contract staff time are not subject to rebatable taxes calculation. Excluded are professional services contract. These expenses are to be reported under management and professional services. Complete the sheet as needed. This section is for expense associated with contractors engaged to undertake project activities such as general laborers and researchers. Complete as needed. Material and supply expenses. Input all receipts associated with eligible material and supply expenses. Complete as needed. Equipment rental expenses. Once again, complete as needed. Vehicle rentals. Complete as needed. Lease of office worksheet. This eligible expense amount for costs of office lease space is calculated as 5% of the organization current occupancy costs, as reported on line 4850 of the most recent T4033 CRA registered charity information return, to a maximum of $3,000. Complete as needed. Communication worksheet. This expense can be expensed to a maximum of $5,000. The eligible expenses that can be included are design and installation of property-based program recognition sign, communication costs, advertising, announcement, design, installation of signage, etc., or alternative project-specific funding recognition, communication, and event expense. Complete as needed. Management and professional services. These are expenses for management and professional services required to support a project such as accounting charges, monitoring and translation, internal charges, official language translation charges, legal fees charges, title search fees, registration fees, and severance subdivisions fees that are required to secure the project. Securement-related consultant costs necessary to negotiate the project are, in the case of conservation agreement, drafting of baseline documentation report, and the conservation agreement. Please note these expenses include those hired under a professional service contract. There is an additional column in the worksheet, column M. Column M is in place for situation where services may be HST exempt. This column is where you would input any fees for service that was not charged HST. Complete as needed. Purchase, sales, and price and stewardship. If the land and conservation agreement is a split receipt, please record the cash amount under cash match and Please record the donated amount under in-kind match. The amounts must match the dollar amount as identified in the project appraisal previously submitted. If the purchase price was higher than the fair market value, as indicated in the appraisal, the difference must be reflected in the in-kind match. Please complete as needed. Associated costs and baseline documentation report, BDRs. The associated costs includes surveys, appraisal, applicable GST, HST, QHT, land trust fees, property taxes only when paid as part of the closing, real estate broker fees, environmental assessment, and baseline documentation. Please complete as needed. Management plan. A maximum of $10,000 can be expensed to the program for the development of a management plan associated or required as part of permanent protection of land secured is allowable under the condition that the management plan is completed and the expense is incurred between April 1st, 2021 and March 31st, 2022. Please complete as needed. Stewardship activities. Eligible expenses can include activities such as design, installation of fencing, restoration work, removing invasive species, implementation of management plan action, monitoring, etc. Note the activities are to be completed and associated expense are to have been or be incurred between April 1st, 2021 and March 31st, 2022. Completed as needing. Fundraising expense worksheet. LTCF funds cannot be used for fundraising expenses. As such, you will only find the cash match and in-kind match tables. Invoice template, optional. This is an optional invoice template should you wish to use it. Financial report. Now, return to the financial report worksheet and review the auto-populated amounts. Ensure that all amounts that have been populated are correct, such as grand total of LTCF amount in E20 must not exceed the amount awarded on your signed funding agreement. Fair market value amount must reflect the FMV provided in the appraisal. Maximum allowable amounts are not to be exceeded. A minimum of 1.5 match ratio must be demonstrated. Scroll down on the financial report template and manually complete the sources of match questions and table. Again, if the total match in the sources table does not match the total amount of match reflected in the financial report table, an error message will appear. Please adjust until totals match exactly. Receipts. Please ensure that receipts invoices are numbered and organized correctly to align with reporting. If a receipt has multiple costs assigned to different expenses on the report, please provide on the receipt which expense is associated to, as indicated on the financial report. Again, you must attach copies of individual invoices or receipts for both NHCP and LTCF expenses and matching funds that are $1,000 or over. Keep a record of all receipts in case of random audit of NHCP LTCF project expense. You are now ready to upload the financial report and receipt package to the final reporting form on the FT online system. Finally, the instructions in these videos are to be followed to the best of your ability. However, should you have any question that cannot be answered by referencing the available resources, please contact Sonia Blanchard at sblanchard@whc.org.